We shouldn't see our partner as competition. And we shouldn't see our partner as the enemy. You're a team, you're a partnership. So trying to hide money or hide things from one another, it doesn't always end best. And sometimes you can betray people's trust through doing that.
And I think that's a good point as well. I think a lot of the time you unintentionally see them as competition, and by doing so, you will hide this from them. And I think sometimes that happens where you'll be under pressure in terms of like salaries, what are you making, what are you doing here, what are you doing here. And then sometimes you'll be in a situation where it's like, okay, do you know what, I'm not going to tell them X. One thing as well that like I was always told kind of growing up is you never open up fully to your woman about your money. You always keep X in another place that no one necessarily needs to know about. But then an aspect of that does boil down to competition. I should put my full trust into my wife. Essentially, that's the female version of me. That I should see that as me basically.
Yeah.
So I should be open. I should be honest with them. That's not my competition. If there's any issues going on there, I talk to her, talk it out, and then we try and learn off each other. So
Exactly.
I think that's a key point in terms of seeing your partner as competition.
Especially with the technology that's available. Like you don't need to hide things. Like you could have, like you said, joint accounts, a lot of apps that show stuff. You know what I mean? And so once all the bills are paid and everything is done and so forth, and you've agreed how much you're supposed to save, you put whatever money you want into your spending account and you spend that how you want. You can spend that freely. You don't need to necessarily ask, can I buy this or can I buy that? Like a lot of the time, the reason you want to be secretive is because you've got an addiction or a habit and you don't want no one to tell you, to check you on it. And actually, that's the whole point of having a partner is that you're not hiding. Like, how would you hide from yourself?
Yes,
do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's how you need to see your partner. So why would you try and hide this? If it's gambling, if it's clothes, if it's food, whatever it is.
But some people would say, do you know what, I do see my partner as myself, but they may be ashamed of themselves. They may be ashamed of this bad habit that they now have. It's like, I'm hooked on gambling, as you mentioned, or I'm hooked on alcohol. What do you think about couples who have everything in one account? When I say everything, I'm talking about, before when you mentioned you've got bills and you're spending such and such accounts, but everything goes into one account, and then your bills come out, and then what's left is you play. Like both parties, everything's in one account.
I think it's too messy for me. I think what's clean is having an account just for your bills. You put your money in there. Obviously, people can get paid into their joint account, but also you can get paid into your separate account. It depends on how you do it. Make sure you've got a joint account to pay all your bills together. That's cool. Also, having bills together helps because what happens is that you're on the gas, you're on the utilities. Again, these things can help your credit, like paying these things. So sometimes one partner will pay all the bills, and then the other partner's name's not on there. Then it can affect their credit. But also sometimes when you need to provide ID or provide stuff, like and they want proof of address, you have nothing in your name, so you have no proof of address, which can affect applications for certain loans and stuff like that. If you have these bills joint, you're both benefiting. That bill gets paid. That's a tick for both of you on your credit report. Do you know what I mean? So it's important to have that together. And then if you have your bills separate, have a separate account for your savings, and then each have a spending account. For me, that's quite clear for everyone where money's going and what you're doing.
You got an account where you get paid into, and then you transfer that account, transfer the money, from that paid into account into a spending account. And how do you gauge your spending account?
I put myself on a budget, so I just say, look, you get X each month, and that's what you manage. I think it's based on the lifestyle, right? The life that you want to live. So, like I said, that's what's left. After I paid my bills, after I put how much I want to put into savings, investing, whatever, that number that's left, that's what I've got to play with. Do you know what I mean? I invest in myself before I spend it and give money to other people. Because that's how you have to see your money. When you see your money like, okay, actually, what I'm doing is the money that I worked hard for, I'm giving it to other people to get something else back, but I'm giving it away, either way. So every month we get paid and then you give it away to whoever, whatever the things that you enjoy are for the return for that enjoyment. But the reality for me is that the first person I need to give my money to is me. Let me pay my bills so that I've got the roof over my head and done that. Then I can say, I'm gonna go and play with this money. I'm gonna go and spend it how I want to, and I don't have to feel bad because I've invested in me. My bills are covered, and now whatever I'm spending isn't required for my daily living.
One other couple that I know, they're both getting paid into this one account and they're getting the bills from that account. But then the missus, for whatever reason, didn't feel like it was fair that she would contribute more because she was getting money from business and because the brother was a bit wild with his spending habits. So I said, if all money's going into one account now, obviously if your spending habits is a bit wild,
you're subsidising, you're getting subsidised, That's what you're both supposed to do, pay your bills together, That's what you're supposed to do. Make sure that, if you've got savings goals or targets, if you've got ISAs or if you've got junior ISAs for your kids, make sure that you're both jointly contributing to all those things. But then when it comes to spending, like you said, people have different spending habits and what people want to save more. After we've done that, I might have 1,000 left over, you might have 1,000 left over, but I might want to use 800 of that to save and invest and 200 to spend. You might want to use 800 of that to spend and 200 and that's fine if that's what you want to do. You have to have those conversations, because when it comes now to paying house deposit, you're going to have 60% more money than this other person, because you're putting in 80% into investing and they're putting in 20%. So you're putting in 60% more. When it's now time to put the deposit down, are you going to go 50-50 or are you going to put 60% more down? And you're both going to have the same ownership, or are you going to own 60% more?
To be honest though, if it's a married couple and the guy puts down 80% deposit, she puts down 20%, you can't say to your wife, I'm going to own more of the house.
You can't. People have these conversations. I wouldn't.
Can you legally do that?
You buy it tenants in common. So rather than have it joint tenancy, most people have it joint. So you both join it, you both own it. But basically, it's like you both own it 100% basically, even though it's 50-50, because one person dies, the other one gets 100%. Yes. So you both own it joint. Tenants in common is split, so you own 50%. But you could say, because I'm putting in 80%, I own 80% of the house, you own 20% of the house, because you only put 20% of deposit in. So
you get a mortgage under tenants in common. Basically.
Yeah, tenants in common, yeah. You're now common. The good thing about tenants in common is that for estate planning, on your death, if you're joint, all of it passes over. But if it's common, it goes into your estate. So you might allocate in your estate that you want, in your will, you want it to go to your kids. So then, it misses your partner. Because sometimes the worry is, it goes to your partner, 100%, she remarries, gets divorced, 50% of your asset has gone to another person. And then your kids have lost 50% of their asset. So that's a way to make sure that on your death, your wife can still stay in the house because she owns 50% of the house, so she can still use the house. And if she sells the house, 50% of that, of whatever she sells it for, will go to your children, because your children will own it. So that's what a lot of people do.
So really and truly, logically speaking, obviously, marriage, people would say there's not logic essentially.
Yeah.
But logically speaking, unless you have kids, you would technically advise someone to get tenants in common, just in case, as a security.
In most cases, you should get tenants in common. I know it's easier to get joint tenants, but tenants in common makes the most sense in most cases. And even if you do 50-50, it's fine. You can still own it evenly and equally, but it just means that you do your will, and it goes into your estate, you do your will, and now you have more to say and more control of where that money goes on your death. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, but let's say I don't get tenants in common and I do my will, but within my will, I state that I own 50% of this house because I put such and such down. So within my will, I want my share to go to such and such. That's
on death. But if you get divorced before you die, so obviously you get divorced, then your will is void. So what you wrote in your will won't apply. It's really important to make sure that, you have the will and so forth, but put the things in place, because you set up a will, get divorced, you have to do a new will. Imagine you spent years building up these assets. Imagine you're the sole breadwinner, and remember, that's not just man, that could be a woman. Yeah. So imagine a woman has worked, partner stayed at home, look after the kids or whatever, built up this fortune. On death, all this fortune goes to the partner, and then the partner then gets married and gets divorced, and 50% of that goes out of the family to a next family, to somebody else that never worked hard, never did anything.
Just fell into money.
Just fell into money. And now they've got 50%. And your kids now are only going to get 50% of the benefit of all what you both have worked hard or built up over that time. So that's why I always tell people, look at wills, look at trust, look at powers of attorney, look at sitting down with an advisor, with an estate planner, to make sure that you're planning these things, and do them early. Have these conversations. This is what we're talking about. It's more than just a bank. If you can't be open and honest about a bank account, what are you going to do when it comes to wills? What are you going to do when it comes to power of attorney, when you got to pick who can switch off your machine in the case of your death, when the doctor asks? And remember, in the pandemic, a lot of people died because they never had power of attorney. The doctor didn't have to ask anybody, did you have power of attorney? Oh, there's no power of attorney. Okay, we fill that off in the machine. Boom, machine's off. Power of attorney is split between health and finances. So the person that you can pick someone just to look after your health stuff, any medical stuff, anything to do with your health, and pick someone else to do with finances, or someone can do both. But because you've got that power of attorney, the doctor, before they switch off that machine, they have to come and inform you. And you can say, I don't want that machine to be off. That person can act on your behalf. So in the pandemic, loads of people's machines got switched off. No power of attorney.
Isn't there a limit regardless? Like if you've got a power of attorney and the power of attorney keeps saying no.
Yeah, of course, you can go to court. Like you saw with the parents, with the mum had the boy that I think he did balloons or something, and he made himself pass out, but then he couldn't wake back up again and had brain damage, and he's on a life machine, and she wanted them to keep the machine on because she was so confident he's going to wake back up. And then eventually they took it to the highest court, and the court said no, switch it off, because she still acts on his behalf as a parent. But once you become an adult, if you haven't got that, they're not going to listen to your mum and dad once you're an adult.
So if you're under 18, you don't necessarily need a power of attorney. Your parents
is considered, you know what I mean? But once you become an adult, that's on you. Do you know what I mean? That's your decision. So if you haven't got someone to make the decision for you, then you're at the mercy of the doctor. And these are little things how things are going wrong. So even like having a will, having a power of attorney, once you've got a power of attorney, if you're sick in hospital, someone can then go to your bank account, take money out, make sure your bills are paid. People have got sick, lay in hospital. By the time they've got up and been able to come back out, they've lost their property, they've lost everything. The financial companies will say, well, I can't speak to you. You haven't got power of attorney, or you haven't got a record of the person giving you permission to be able to have this conversation.